5:30 Live.
Good evening from the News Center. This is 5:30. Has been waiting for.
Roxanne, tonight, Ellwood City is devastated by a major fire that heavily damaged part of its business district. It's the third major fire in the town in 3 years. It left several people injured and many more homeless. Lauren Mann has more from the scene.
The thick black clouds towered upward, filling Chopper 11 with the smell of smoke. For the next 4 hours, a half-dozen fire companies were busy trying to bring that stubborn general alarmer under control.
We know it started in the back of Majestic Theater, but what caused it? How it started, we have no idea at this time. From there, it jumped across because of the narrow division between the two buildings that jumped into this building here. Hopefully, we're going to be able to contain it in the front of this building. We lost the theater, it's gone.
The second building housed several businesses and apartments. Everyone was evacuated safely. No one was in the theater. It was open only during evenings. Its owner watched helplessly as his business went up in flames.
It's a sad situation. You know, there were a lot of people, we had a lot of friends. You know, it's tough. A lot of hard work in it. It's things you can't really describe in words, you know, because your heart gets into it too.
Think you'll start over?
I'm going to try.
A fireman and a shop owner were treated for smoke inhalation. The fireman was overcome while battling flames inside the theater. The merchant encountered smoke when she returned to the building to remove some items. Both were taken to hospitals and are in good condition tonight. Fire officials say they'll remain at the scene for several hours this evening, making sure the smoldering ruins don't flare up again, and at the same time trying to find the cause of the blaze. In all, it left 20 people homeless and wiped out nearly a dozen businesses. Ellwood City certainly has had its share of problems recently. This town is already suffering from the adverse effects of plant closings and high unemployment. And the people here say that a fire like this in the business district with heavy losses is something this town can do without. In Ellwood City, Lauren Mann, WPXI, 5:30 Live.
But tonight, the town of Weirton has raised.
This is our news director, Mr. Jack Book. 6 o'clock, we'll tell you about some steel workers. Ellwood City had their hands full today. A fire that started in a movie theater apparently spread to 8 adjoining businesses. We have reports that at least 2 firefighters were injured. We'll give you the latest details of these and other stories when Andrea Wood joins me for 33 Eyewitness News at 6. Lois?
And some small basement businesses. Along 5th Avenue, there was some damage to the apartments and the businesses, but when electricity is restored, it looks as though those folks will be back to normal. 2 firemen were hurt, one from Ellwood City and one from Perry Township, but both will return to the scene after treatment at the hospital. Those cars, which had innocently parked in the area before the blaze was discovered, had to be chopped out from under igloos of ice. It's going to be some time before a total damage estimate can be made, and probably even longer before they can name a cause for this expensive fire in Ellwood City, Pennsylvania. Bill Applegate for Newswatch 27.
Youngstown sellers are still on the scene tonight in Ellwood City after fire swept through a section of the downtown area. The damage is said to be extensive. Faith Daniels is on the scene today.
It's the third time in the past 3 years downtown Ellwood City has caught fire in the dead of winter. Today, the 4-alarm fire took out a half-block area at the corner of Lawrence and 5th. It broke out in back of the old Majestic Theater shortly after 11 o'clock, and within an hour, fire had engulfed the entire corner. It burned for several hours before 5 fire companies were finally able to bring it under control. The firefighters' efforts today were severely hampered by the bitter cold. The water was freezing as soon as it left the hose. The firefighters' clothes were frozen solid, and the streets were a glare sheet of ice.
The weather's really been against us, that's for sure. Radios were freezing up, the mast froze up, we couldn't get back inside, the ladders were froze up, hoses are froze to the ground. It's a real mess.
2 firefighters were injured today.
Hey, tell them to get that ambulance ready to roll.
George Durbin was struck down when a hose let loose from the truck. Frank Patelka was overcome by smoke. Both men were treated and released. Fire officials still aren't sure what triggered the blaze that managed to wipe out 2 buildings, 8 businesses, and several apartments. Damage figures aren't available yet, but all are said to be a total loss. Most of the merchants, though, had time to clear out their merchandise before the fire took over.
In the whole town, they all cooperated. People come out of the woodwork to help carry merchandise out. We got the whole store empty.
Fire officials tell me that they do not suspect foul play at this time, but because of the extensive damage, they will be bringing the state fire marshal in to investigate. Faith Daniels, Channel 4 Action News.
Richard brought under control. It reportedly started in the rear of the Majestic Theater and spread to nearby buildings at Lawrence and 5th Streets. 6 businesses were damaged by the flames, some extensively. Authorities say 7 people were injured by the blaze. They included 4 firemen, 2 shop owners, and a bystander. All were treated and released at Ellwood City Hospital. There is still no damage estimate available, although it's expected to be high. The cause of the blaze is still unknown.
Lawrence County. The fire began about 11:30 this morning and destroyed their businesses on Lawrence Avenue, the main drag there. They included a dress shop, stereo store, and 2 jewelry firms. 1 fireman was injured in the blaze. Fire officials are still totaling that damage and are looking for a cause for that fire. Patty?
Good evening. Steelworkers have
Been burning in the back of the Majestic Theater for some time before that. It became evident quickly that Ellwood City's department was going to need help. So the call went out. Franklin, Perry, Wayne, and Zelia and Opal all responded with men and equipment. At the height of the conflagration, the entire block between Lawrence and Beaver was evacuated, with about 6 businesses wiped out. A stereo store next to the theater, 2 jewelers, and some small basement businesses. Along 5th Avenue, there was some damage to the apartments and the businesses, but when electricity is restored, it looks as though those folks will be back to normal. 2 firemen were hurt, one from Ellwood City and one from Perry Township, but both will return to the scene after treatment at the hospital. Those cars, which had innocently parked in the area before the blaze was discovered, had to be chopped out from under igloos of ice. It's going to be some time before a total damage estimate can be made, and probably even longer before they can name a cause for this expensive fire in Ellwood City, Pennsylvania. Bill Applegate for Newswatch 27.
The Majestic Theater and spread to 2 other buildings at Lawrence and 5th Streets. 6 businesses were damaged by the fire, some extensively. Authorities say there were 7 injured, including 4 firemen, 2 of the shop owners, and a bystander. All were treated and released at Ellwood City Hospital. In addition, reports say 8 families were forced to leave nearby apartments. There's no damage estimate available now, but it's expected to be very high.
In Action News tonight, firefighters in Ellwood City spent most of today fighting a general alarm blaze that swept through part of the downtown business district. And the investigation.
Downtown Ellwood City. That blaze, which broke out before noon and smoldered into the evening, leaves 6 families homeless. It started in the rear of the Majestic Theater and quickly spread to adjoining storefronts and apartments. The theater was completely destroyed and its owner watched helplessly.
It's a sad situation. You know, there were a lot of people, we had a lot of friends. You know, it's tough. A lot of hard work in it. There's things you can't really describe in words, you know, because your heart gets into it too.
Authorities hope to determine a cause and the total damages by tomorrow.
Coming up, a temperature of 10 below zero is just about the worst possible time. A general alarm blaze in Ellwood City late this morning destroyed a theater and 4 businesses in the downtown section of that city. 70 firefighters from 5 different companies fought the flames in bitter cold.
It was freezing up, the mast froze up, we couldn't get back inside, the ladders were froze up, hoses are froze to the ground. It's a real mess. The weather's really been against us, that's for sure.
3 firemen were hurt fighting that blaze. They were taken to Ellwood City Hospital, treated, and released.
3 members.
Today's general alarm fire that destroyed a section of Ellwood City. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Concessions. Just how far in Ellwood City today, trying to pinpoint the cause of the blaze. Movie theater, then spread to an adjoining building.
We were satisfied it started in the rear of the building near the heating system, but we cannot get down to the heating system because of the extreme ice conditions inside the building. But at this point, there is no indication whatsoever that the fire is other than accidental. We have estimated a dollar loss on the building, all the buildings, somewhere between $350,000 and $400,000.
And 2 firefighters were injured in Ellwood City in bringing that blaze under control.
And merchants have been pitching in to rebuild the area. And as Greg McCampbell reports, they're making progress.
The
The fire started in the Majestic Hall Theater. The blaze moved rapidly, destroying several businesses. Other stores on the block suffered major smoke and water damage. But today, this very site is now being revitalized. The Chamber of Commerce here in Ellwood City had fears that the property owner would pull up stakes and move out after the fire and leave a major chunk of this business district desolate. But that didn't happen.
How did the people of the city of Ellwood feel about that?
They feel the same way as I do. They were very happy that Dr. Dixon had made statements that he was going to build, and he carried it through immediately. There wasn't much of a delay.
Business people who were affected by the blaze also say it came as a surprise that the property owner stuck it out.
At first, I didn't think he would rebuild, and because most of the rooms that, or not rooms, but buildings in this town that were burned out were never rebuilt. So when he came up and told us that he was going to rebuild, we were all very happy about it and surprised.
Residents of Ellwood City are relieved that these businesses were brought back too.
This is just a good facelift.
There could have been a parking lot there.
I think it'll be a big plus for the area.
It would have been nice if we can have our movie theater back, but what they're doing is really nice.
Ellwood City's population is about 13,000. According to officials with the Chamber of Commerce, the city draws as many as 30,000 shoppers from surrounding vicinities. If the property owner decided not to stay, the situation would have cut into hundreds of thousands of dollars of the city's annual revenues. Greg McCampbell, Channel 4 Action News.
Television commercial.